Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's get straight to it. We're looking at a really significant challenge today. It's about mental health supports, specifically for men over 40.
Right.
And the stats, well, they really hit hard. There was this piece in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. It highlighted that men account for, get this, over 83% of suicide deaths.
83%. That's staggering.
It is, and yet they're the least likely group to actually ask for help. So that massive gap, that's what we're diving into.
It's a stark illustration, isn't it, of a major disconnect. There's clearly a huge need, but something stopping men from getting the support that, well, that exists.
Exactly. And that's really the mission for us today. We've gathered quite a bit of material articles on things like mental health apps, specific resources for men's wellness, some research on, digital health literacy.
Which is increasingly important.
Definitely. Plus vital statistics on men's mental health, info on testosterone therapy, which connects in ways we'll explore, and a really insightful TEDx talk about masculinity.
Ah, yes, the man box concept.
That's the one. So our goal here is pretty straightforward. Cut through all the noise and give you, the listener, some clear, actionable steps.
Yeah.
Real resources to help you figure out how to find support. Because honestly, for so many guys, the biggest hurdle isn't wanting things to be better.
No, not at all.
It's just not knowing where on earth to start.
And that feeling, that being lost or just overwhelmed by it all, that can be a massive obstacle in itself. It just adds to the weight.
Okay, so let's unpack that first big barrier then. Why is it so tough, particularly for men over 40, to reach out? The Las Vegas Review-Journal article we mentioned points straight at that traditional strong male stereotype. This, ingrained idea that showing emotion, any emotion besides maybe stoicism, is weakness.
That narrative of the strong, silent type, it's been dominant for so long, hasn't it? It creates this whole environment where being vulnerable is seen as, well, the opposite of being a man.
And that TEDx talk you mentioned, it really digs into this with the man box idea.
Yeah.
What really stood out to you from that talk about why seeking help is so hard?
Well, what's fascinating is this concept of unspoken rules. These pressures men feel they have to live by. The speaker calls them the tools in this man box.
Right, the tools.
Yeah, things like man up or that whole real men don't cry thing. They actively, shut down any way to express vulnerability or even admit you need support. It's like men are given this toolkit, but it's completely outdated. It doesn't actually help with real-life struggles.
It's like carrying around this invisible instruction manual that just restricts you. And it's not just a feeling, is it? There's data. The Mind Report from the UK, it sheds some light on the real-world impact. They found something interesting. While more men in their survey felt they could seek help compared to, say, 2009.
Which sounds positive on the surface.
Right, but the number of men actually experiencing mental health problems had gone up. That feels like a pretty big disconnect to me.
It really does. It highlights that just feeling like you can seek help doesn't automatically mean you will, especially if the underlying pressures are actually getting worse. And that Mind Report also had a particularly concerning statistic.
Yeah.
Men aged 45 to 49 had the highest suicide rate in England and Wales back in 2019. That really underscores how severe this is for this specific age group.
God, that's grim. And it gets even more specific and, frankly, a bit heartbreaking. That same report found men between 45 and 54 were the least likely to talk.
Least likely.
Yeah, least likely to talk to their partner, their family, or even think about seeing a therapist when they were worried or feeling low. It paints a picture of, well, real isolation for some guys at this stage.
It does. And what's interesting is that the report also notes that for men who are in relationships, their partners are often their main source of emotional support.
Right.
Which underlines how vital those close bonds are, but maybe also highlights the increased vulnerability if those relationships are strained or, if a man doesn't have that kind of close connection.
Okay, so knowing these really significant hurdles exist, where does someone actually start? Where do you begin to find support? It can feel like trying to navigate a minefield.
Totally overwhelming.
But our sources point to several potential first steps. One Psychology Today article, it was about empty nest syndrome, but it had this broadly applicable advice. Lean on people you trust.
Yes.
Loved ones, close friends, your inner circle.
That's absolutely foundational. Just talking to someone you feel safe with could be a partner, a good mate, a family member that can be incredibly powerful. It starts breaking down that initial wall of isolation. validates what you're feeling.
Yeah, just getting it out there.
Sharing the burden can immediately make you feel a little lighter, you know?
Makes sense. Another really key starting point mentioned in the Lyra Health blog is something many of us already do for our physical health.
Ah, right. Talking to your doctor.
Exactly. Your primary care physician, your GP.
Yeah, your GP is often the first port of call for any health concern, isn't it? And mental health shouldn't be any different. They can do an initial assessment, offer some guidance, and importantly, act as a kind of gateway
A gateway.
to mental health professionals, if that seems like the right next step. It's a familiar setting, often less intimidating for many men to start there.
And when we talk about those mental health professionals, places like the Psychology Today website and other resources, they list, therapists, psychiatrists, various mental health specialists as key sources of support.
And these are the folks with specific training, the expertise to offer in-depth therapy, counseling, maybe medication management if that's needed. It's so important to reframe seeing these professionals. It's not a last resort.
No, it's proactive.
Exactly. It's a proactive, strong step towards improving your well-being.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit into the digital age. Mental health apps. The CNET article we looked at mentioned a truly staggering number, somewhere between like 10,000 and 20,000 wellness apps out there.
Wow. Yeah, that's enough to make anyone's head spin. It's a vast and, let's be honest, sometimes overwhelming landscape.
Totally.
But the CNET article did a pretty good job breaking down some main categories. You've got meditation apps, like Calm.
Heard of that one?
Yeah, they note it's good for beginners, but you might hit a paywall for some of the more advanced features. Then there are online therapy platforms, like Talkspace. They offer access to licensed therapists, which is great, but
More expensive, I bet.
generally, yes. It comes with a higher price tag. You've also got mood-boosting apps. Happify was one mentioned. And even some exploring newer areas, like sound frequency therapy with apps like Soak.
Sound frequency therapy, what's that about?
Well, Soak, for example, uses specific sound frequencies. There's some early research suggesting these might influence brain activity, potentially helping with stress or mood. It's definitely a developing area and needs more research, but it's out there.
Interesting. And the You Aligned article also flags some apps focusing specifically on men's wellness. Fitbod for fitness, Noom, which takes a more psychological approach to weight management,
Right, behavior-based.
and Calm Again for mindfulness. It really seems like there's an app for almost anything related to well-being now.
There's huge potential there, definitely. But also a lot to sift through. If you're thinking about an app, that CNET article had some really practical advice.
Like what?
Look at the features, obviously. Check the credentials. Are there licensed professionals involved? Is there actual research backing their claims? What's the cost? Many are subscription-based.
Right, the cost adds up.
And maybe most importantly, what are actual users saying in the reviews?
Yeah.
That can give you a much clearer picture than the marketing spiel.
That makes perfect sense. Real experiences. It's also interesting you mentioned, BrainJo, using VR therapy for specific things like burnout and stress. That's quite targeted.
Yeah, that kind of specialization can be really valuable if you have a clearer sense of what you're dealing with. But moving beyond apps, our sources also highlighted some really useful online resources and communities.
Okay.
For instance, the Healthy Gamer subreddit. It's a space for community discussion, specifically around mental health. Seems quite supportive.
And there's the Men and Mental Health blog on the Good Dads website, offers curated articles, content aimed right at men navigating these issues. Plus, the Mind website itself, that's a fantastic hub for information and support resources in the UK.
These online options can offer connection and information in a maybe more informal setting that can be
Yeah.
really helpful for some guys. These communities can be great at reducing that feeling of being alone in it all.
Yeah, pure support.
Finding online spaces that feel safe, where open conversation is actually encouraged, that's key.
Another area to consider, and the Lyra Health blog touched on this, is workplace support.
Yes, that's a big one. For many men over 40, work is so central to life, it can be a major source of stress, obviously.
Tell me about it.
But it could also potentially be a source of support. Initiatives that encourage open talk about mental health among men, maybe using language that resonates, Lyra Health called it gender-responsive language.
What does that mean exactly? Focusing on...
Maybe focusing more on things like problem-solving, resilience, coaching, rather than just feelings. And, of course, providing actual mental health benefits through work. That can make a real difference in just normalizing seeking help.
Normalizing it, yeah. And finally, there was the mention of hormone replacement therapy, HRT, in that Understanding Testosterone Therapy article. Now, it's not a direct mental health treatment, right? But it can have an impact,
That's right. For men over 40, low testosterone levels can sometimes contribute to symptoms like fatigue, low energy.
which definitely affects mood.
Absolutely. It can impact mood and overall well-being. So HRT, by restoring those levels, might lead to benefits like more energy, maybe enhanced muscle mass. And those things can indirectly have a positive knock-on effect on mental and emotional health.
But it's not the first thing you jump to for depression, say.
Definitely not. It's crucial to have a thorough discussion with a doctor. Understand if it's appropriate for you, be aware of all the potential risks and benefits. It's a piece of the puzzle for some, perhaps, but not a primary mental health fix.
Right, good distinction. Okay, so let's say you've identified some potential paths. How do you actually navigate the system? And maybe even more importantly, how do you start tackling that stigma, the one that holds so many men back?
Yeah, the stigma is huge.
The Understanding Men's Mental Health Challenges article really stressed the need for safe, non-judgmental spaces. Places where men feel okay expressing how they actually feel.
That sense of safety, of acceptance, it's absolutely essential. Without it, opening up is just incredibly difficult. And as the article points out, active listening, really hearing someone without jumping in to fix it, that can make a world of difference.
Just being heard.
Just feeling heard and understood can be such a powerful first step in breaking down those walls.
You mentioned gender-responsive language earlier from the Lyra Health blog. Can you unpack that a bit more? What might that look like in practice when talking about mental health with men?
Sure. So gender-responsive language, in this context, it often means framing support in ways that might align better with traditional masculine values, perhaps. So instead of only talking about emotions,
Which can be a turnoff for some.
it might be. So maybe talk about developing problem-solving skills or coping strategies or building resilience. It's about meeting men where they are, framing well-being in a way that feels less threatening, maybe less contrary to those old ideals of self-reliance.
Kind of like using their existing toolkit, but upgrading the tools.
That's a good way to put it. And the Lyra blog also mentioned the impact of leaders, especially male executives, being open about their own stresses. That kind of modeling from the top, it really helps normalize these conversations.
Visible role models. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful. And just a practical note for listeners who might have insurance through, say, the teacher retirement system of Texas they mentioned, having access to personal health guides.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, people who can actually help you navigate the system, find providers, even book appointments for mental health care. That kind of direct, practical support, that could be a real game changer when you're feeling lost.
Absolutely, because navigating insurance, finding the right professional, that can be another huge hurdle. Having someone guide you through that process can seriously increase the chances of actually getting the help you need.
Okay, we've talked a lot about digital resources, apps, and websites, so it feels important to touch on this idea of digital health literacy.
Right.
The PMC article we looked at defines this basically as your ability to find, understand, and then use health information you get from digital tools.
And that skill set is becoming absolutely critical, isn't it? Especially for accessing mental health support these days. As that PMC article highlights, mobile health apps, telemedicine platforms, they have so much potential to make information more accessible, make it easier for people to engage with their own health.
Everyone's got a smartphone.
Pretty much. The widespread use really underscores the potential, as they mentioned.
But that same article also raises some important cautions, particularly around how reliable or accurate the health information you find online actually is.
That's a really valid concern. It's so crucial to be discerning. You need to think about the sources you're using online, prioritize reputable organizations, platforms backed by actual evidence or qualified professionals. You can't just trust the first thing Google throws up.
Definitely not.
And the PMC article also touched on something vital: protecting your sensitive health data, maintaining trust in these digital platforms. Privacy and security have to be paramount when you're dealing with personal health info.
Absolutely critical. Okay, finally, and this is incredibly important, emergency resources. In a moment of crisis, knowing where to turn immediately is vital.
Yes.
The CNET article provided some key numbers. For immediate medical help, it's always 911 in the U.S. For the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, you can call or text 988.
988.
Yeah.
Easy to remember.
Yeah. And the crisis text line is available just by texting HOME to 741-741. They also mention the Trevor Project, which is a crucial resource specifically for LGBTQ plus youth. These are the numbers to have ready, just in case.
These services are there 204/7 to provide immediate support during a crisis. It's so important people know they exist and how to access them.
Okay, so to try and bring this all together, the key message really is that seeking support for your mental health, it's a sign of strength, full stop.
Absolutely. Not weakness.
And as men over 40, as you navigate all the challenges life inevitably throws your way, there are many different paths to explore. We've talked about, reaching out to people you trust, considering your GP as a first step.
Exploring those apps and online resources carefully.
Right, being aware of potential support at work, even understanding how something like HRT might fit into the bigger picture of well-being for some.
And remembering that tackling the stigma involves fostering those safe conversations, maybe using language that resonates, seeing positive examples from others, especially leaders. And things like those personal health guides can be incredibly helpful in just navigating the practical steps.
So we want to leave you with a final thought. Building on that idea from the TEDx talk, the Man Box, what's maybe one small update you could make starting today? In your own thinking, perhaps, or in your actions, to open yourself, or maybe a male friend, to the possibility of seeking support.
Just one small change.
Yeah, we really encourage you to explore the resources we've discussed and just keep challenging those outdated ideas about what it means to be a man, what it means to be strong. It feels like it's time for a new definition.